All right. Keep an eye out for me, Lauren. So this is a generic Google Earth image. Always was farm straight north south, more or less. Really dry at the top, pretty good soil in the middle, and the good soil part kind of moves depending on the weather. And then really wet down here. The water table is about 6 inches below the soil. People go down there and get stuck in the water stands in the tracks all year. So it's just kind of a mess. This is what it looked like last year, about midsummer. You couldn't hardly row the corn at the top, and you couldn't row it at all at the bottom. And there wasn't enough to bother even getting the combine out. We were light on nutrients. We were really light on timely rain. We did see pretty good vegetable growth up here in the light stuff in the wide rows. But we did get a pretty healthy cover crop thing, and we think that helped us a little bit. So now if I fast forward to this year, this is what it was like just before the field day. You can see the field day layouts up there. You can see the replications. How many people do we have on board now, Lauren?
It says 19, but I'm trying to figure 2 out yet.
Okay. So yeah, there's a lot of people that I don't know that I haven't heard this. So, so you see a 30-inch baseline, and then some 60-inch, and then some 90-inch, and then it repeats. These are replications. They aren't exactly the same width because there's some mixing and randomizing within the replications. But basically, there's 4 replications there in a total width of about 300 feet. The longest rows are right at 300 feet long. And the main variables, there's 1 seed variety in this plot, 1 seed brand, 1 fertility treatment. So the only real variable here is where it is in the plot, that's the soil, and how well the individual rows, or what the row configuration was. Either a more or less standard 30-inch baseline, and the 30-inch baseline last year did not have a cover crop applied, and we didn't this year either. So it's really the baseline with standard practices, and then a 60-inch row and a 90-inch twin row. We had a field day on the 30th of September. It's on YouTube, 10-minute sessions. Not going to go into much detail on that here, but if anyone has an interest, capture that name right there and go search it on YouTube, and you can see as much as you want. Quick image. This is the 30-inch stuff, 26 plants. The target population was 28,000. We had in the 30-inch row, we had 26 plants. For whatever reason, we had a whole bunch of double ears. Normally, that means more than adequate resources, nutrients. So it's unusual for me to see that many double ears, and it came out at 211 bushels an acre, and we had they were fairly consistent at 28%. Keep hunting, Lauren. Now and then this is the 60-inch roll. It was a disappointment. I'm sorry for the distraction here, guys. It was a disappointment. Much lower yield than I would have expected. The ears were not nearly as good. We only had 24 plants. The ears were not as large, and a lot of variability. Should have done better. What was interesting is the twin row did really good. The northeast side of the twin row did 185 bushels. Remember, back the 60-inch was 150. One half of the twin did 185, the other did 205, so they averaged out at 195. So that was where that landed. Boy, this makes me mad. So summarizing what I just said, 211 bushels on the 30-inch, 152 on the 60, and 195 on the 90. So surprisingly good on the 90s, but the two halves of the twin were different, which is kind of interesting. And the 60s just didn't do very good. But this is only a thousandth of an acre. So what if we measured with a machine that whole row? So we did that, and that whole plot was harvested one row at a time. So for those of you who were at the field day, this is now new information. Reno, this is your combine, formerly your combine. And remember, a few years ago, I was crawling around and putting the scale in the tank. And it wasn't
Right.
until last year and this year, I really got good productive use out of that scale, and it worked beautifully. It's basically a standard bending beam scale, but I have capacity of about 100 to 120 pounds in the tank of the combine. So I can do a fairly short roll like this and actually do a weigh check without ever unloading any grain or anything like that. Really handy for me. It was beautiful last year, and it worked even better this year. I have no explanation for why a couple of rows were really good. But you can see on the left-hand side of your screen is the high and dry stuff, and the right-hand side is the low and wet stuff. And then the stuff in the middle is where the grain's not too bad. Lauren, let me know if I need to jump out and back in again.
Probably won't hurt. I think I'm getting closer here.
Okay, good.
While that's happening, Noah Taylor, can you send me a message? And then Adam Fulmer, send me a message. You're the two I don't recognize yet.
Okay, so you're looking for familiar faces. Good for you. Well, this is another learning opportunity. Okay, and Cass is gonna tell me. Let's see. You're getting the whole thing? No, yeah, you are. Oh, use slides, so there I go. Okay, so that's what the individual rows look like if they ever show up. Okay, interesting. So that same field day roll, okay, the ones that we looked at in the field that day at about 200 and some feet was 107 bushels in the little tank. The 60-inch actually beat it, and again, to my amazement, the 90-inch beat both the 60 and the 30. I would not have expected that. I never would expect the 90-inch to do as well as the narrower ones. So, and I don't know of any, and I've checked and double checked my data, I don't know of any treatment difference that I did that would have triggered that. But it's a learning. And then if you do all of rep 2, so this is now 4 30-inch rows, 4 60-inch rows, and 4 90-inch rows. Same deal. The 90-inch still came out on top, which is pretty amazing, to me. So that's all I have to say about that plot. So we had our little field day, we had the ear layouts and all that, and what it tells me is that I picked a good part because it was convenient to the road, and I picked rows that I knew were pretty darn good, but the relative performance really wasn't too far off as far as hand picking. I still like the hand picking thing, but it's really a kind of a statistical roll of the dice.
Hey,
So now we're going
Bob,
to jump. Go ahead.
Bob, a comment on when I left the field day and you were talking about your numbers. The thing that I mean, the difference in yield was there, but the thing that struck me, and I talked to Mike afterwards, was the lack of emergence. If you look at your population that was supposed to be planted in each of those rows and what came up, to me, that was startling. There was like, I think anywhere from 10 to 20% that didn't emerge.
Yep.
And it's too late to check at that time. So you don't know if it got planted and didn't germinate, or if it just didn't get planted. And my suggestion to Mike was that, and he said it was, I don't know what the variety was, but he said it wasn't a high price variety. I said, you really need to check to see what your, the manufacturer, the seed maker, what their emergence is going to be. So what I left there was that some of your differences are due to the emergence. You had seeds that didn't come up.
Right.
If you start looking at your ear counts in a row versus what the population was supposed to be, I think you're going to see a big difference in some of them.
Yeah, I did go back to my iPad and the population map, not the numbers, but the map of the population. And I'm pretty convinced that every seed got planted. There was a fair amount of varmint, underground varmint traffic in that field. If I had to bet that there's some of that going on, and that soil was easy to plant into. I mean, it's a pretty light soil. I struggle with row closing and hard, tough soils and all that. We did not do a warm germ test. We probably should have. What we really should have done is marked off where we're going to have the field day the week the corn came up, and then know where the relative emergence was and all of that. Now, I don't, Lauren, is Mark Eninga on by any chance? Is that name in the list?
Not
did
that I've seen.
Pardon?
Not that I've seen yet.
Okay, he did the precision planting emergence test, flag test, not this past year, but the previous year. And I went up there. We had a lot of fun with that. And that was a real eye opener, kind of for the same reason, Bob, for the, what we concluded from that, the short version is not coming up at all hurt him more than coming up late. He got very good planner, very serious about it and all that, but he had a fair amount of plants that just didn't ever germinate or come up, and that hurt his yield more than the ones that were a day or two late, or three.
Yeah, I experienced that with one variety. I won't even say whose it was this year, and I and my friend, we both planted the same variety, and we had about I think between 5 and 7% non-emergence. And the seeds were all there because I went out and dug.
Yeah. And I've kind of gone through that with Graham Thompson. He'd go out and like, Bob, what happened here? And you go dig it. Well, there's a seed there, just sitting there. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's a seed company problem. It may still be seed to soil contact or planting in the dry soil. There's a million things that can go wrong, but good point, Bob. And so, yeah, lessons learned on that is it takes time. It's hard work, but that should be done. And it would be better to flag where you think you're going to do this kind of a high resolution test the following year. I'll speak more to that a little later here. Okay, thank you. Good. And anyone is welcome to jump in. Lauren, you're the crowd control guy. You're doing a good job.